One thing I disagree with RFK Jr. on that I can think of at the moment is these polls. They're illegal. These polls are unlawful. I mean, that act that's, got Jacob Rees-Mogg on GB News unlawfully, it's in effect affecting voting and polling, right? The reason that MPs aren't supposed to be on TV affecting the outcome of elections and things like that, even if it's outside of the period and self-promoting, they go on the other programmes as guests to answer specific questions about their job when they're in government, what they're doing, what they're up to, or why they're doing this or that. They're not supposed to go into the subject of themselves for getting themselves elected, because the news programme's not meant to be about that until it is the election, and then they're doing the programme about the election. Any politician's promo for themselves is meant to be from their own campaign, their own campaign adverts and their own promo, because then they're not using the capital of the independent channels, who are not really supposed to. You can't, all these channels like the BBC and the ITV and so forth, they're meant to be impartial to things like that. Now, I admit that YouTube has thrown the whole thing up in the air, but, the fact is that legislation is still there, and there's a principle behind it, and they've kind of, what's the, if these, who's doing these, all this old RFK's pulling at this, RFK's pulling at that, pulling by who? What are these polls? Who's doing them? What is it, like Time Magazine or what? If any other magazine really is asking questions, about, it's asking a voting question. It's actually putting the question to the public. And that's the whole point in the election, is meant to be putting the question to the public. So, I mean, if you read that act of law, they're not supposed to be doing that. And the thing is now that, the MPs are meant to, when it's time for an election, right, they're all supposed to make a statement or put some promo out and say, vote for me because of this. And then people are supposed to go and vote, right? And what's happening is the behaviour and conduct of people like Boris Johnson or MPs, right, is affecting the popularity of the party while they're in government or while they're doing certain things. And then what they do is, like, this is why you get MPs who lie and the government's not honest, because the thing is, right, they need, why on YouTube is politics quite unpopular? RFK gets a lot of people on his main website, but on YouTube it's very, very low views. Marianne Williamson as well. People are interested in watching YouTube for that. They watch, Jimmy Dore, or they watch popular shows for entertainment, and their politics is chucked in with that. They don't really go out of their way to watch politics on YouTube. It's not very popular. Now, the thing with MPs is you think, oh, okay, then, they're getting all this money, all these donations. A lot of that's to cover what RFK says is ground costs, just to get around the country and turn up and, do, speeches and, setting up as if like you're a band doing a gig, basically, right? And he does use a certain amount of money, like, Trump throwing hats out or T-shirts and stickers or whatever. Obviously, if he can sell them to get more campaign money, because you don't get taxed for that, he could sell them, but there's a certain amount that they give away for free. Now, the thing is that, they're not really meant to be getting any party political promo, really, from the main channels, because that's what the campaign money is spent on. I mean, you have newspapers that are pro one cause or the other, but when they're talking about the policies and politics, or when they have politicians on to answer questions, it's not meant to be an advert for the party or the person, not the capital of private independent businesses and companies. Now, the thing is, if you look at that Ed Miliband advert with Salmond, right? Alex Salmond, right? That is an official Conservative advert, but there's no Conservative in it. All it says is vote Conservative in small letters in the top corner. And you can hardly notice that. The main focus and feature of the advertisement is to mock the opposition. It has a picture of Salmond with Ed Miliband in his top pocket. And it's meant to mean, like, you know, the SNP party or whatever, or the Scottish people have got, you know, like Labour in the pot. They're basically like the same party, basically. You know, it's meant to mean, like, you know, that Labour and SNP are almost like the same party. You know, they've got each other in the pockets, basically. And also mocks Miliband as well. So, you know, it probably other meanings as well, but that's one of the meanings. Well, I think one of the main meanings to me, regardless of what, you know, Salmond's affiliations or past affiliations are, a lot of people were saying that Labour and SNP were effectively the same party, you know, just have different colours. So, you know, but the thing with the Conservatives is if they do an advert like that because they don't mind, and it's actually, notice that they don't put Boris on there or any of their own candidates. It was the opposition. So it didn't even really look like it was coming from the Tories. The thing is, with the Tories, I mean, when Johnson does promo, he likes to go shearing sheep or pulling pints or whatever, certain things they'll do, but there's certain things that they don't want to be, you know, it's almost like, you know, they don't want a lot of their ideas and campaign slogans or things, what are put out, what could help their party or what do help their party, they don't want them to see that they're coming from their party or that they're their ideas. It's almost like, you know, terrorists, you know, some terrorists want to claim, you know, like Extinction Rebellion aren't terrorists, but you know, they go out and do all these actions and just stop oil. You know, they claim it. They're like, oh yeah, we're Extinction Rebellion, we're just stop oil. They want publicity. They want people to know that it's them doing it and what they're doing, right? But, you know, sometimes if it's something like the IRA or a terrorist group, if they want people to know that it's them, they do it, but then they're unpopular. So that, you know, if the IRA put a bomb on the motorway, then, you know, whatever, they people don't like them. They're unpopular, but they want people to know that they're angry and pissed off or whatever. All this ISIS and you know, all these other terrorist groups and so forth, all these bombers and so forth, they claim it's them, but they're suicide bombers, so they don't mind what people think because a lot of those suicide bombers are going to kill themselves anyway, you know. So, but when the thing is, there are a lot of actions and terrorist acts done where the party who are behind it and responsible for it, and they want to upset people or scare people, or they want to cause a public reaction. They want evidence of public concern. You know, they want the public to be concerned. You know, the public won't be concerned about road safety unless you have a lot of accidents, right? Now, if there weren't that many accidents, or only a few, there wouldn't really be much public concern. So, you know, really to make the public more concerned about it, if you want evidence of public concern when there isn't much, and you need to generate more public concern, like if you want to bang surveillance cameras everywhere, you need more incidents, or there ain't really going to be any need for it. So you could do actions where you cause accidents, but if you are identified as being responsible, then you're not going to be popular and no one's going to vote for you. So you have to get someone else to do it. You have to pay someone else to do it. or you have to get another party to do it. Now, the thing with the Tories is that the things that the Tories are well known for and what they like is being rich, famous, having excess money, spending loads of money, having, loads of multiple houses and fancy things. Now, with the Labour Party being working class, and the Labour Party, a lot of the most of the Labour voters, being poor or have been known for being poor, they don't like the Tories having money, and they would never vote for them. And really, so they need to. How do you get people to like and adore people for having excess, gross excess, and being rich? How can you get people to cheer for, if they're all working class, and they're not rich, and they all kind of, working class heroes, and they believe in sharing and having equal things and not being greedy? How do you get them to adore, champion, and even worship people who have got excess? Well, what you do is you get some of working class people and you make them famous, but you get the working class people to like them for it and accept it and think, oh, this is okay, So what you do is you get people like David Beckham who can play football, and you give them a load of money and you give them a trendy haircut and you get them all sponsored up, and then all the working class football lads think, oh yeah, this is David Beckham, we want to be like that, and then and pop stars as well. And you get them and you make them into, you get working class people, and instead of them just being good on the guitar and playing music and people liking them, you make them into these mega stars who have got famous people. You effectively make working class people into Tories, but get the working class people to not hate them for it and say, oh, just a minute, you've got a bit too much money there. Why is football player getting paid, 28 grand a week? Who needs that amount of money? You get them to accept it and actually like them for it, and then want to pursue it and try go after it themselves. Come on down, spin the wheel, win the money. So, but the Tories are behind setting the whole thing up. They're behind it. And they actually, that's almost like getting the picture of Alex Salmond with Miliband in his pocket. What you're doing is, you're not having a picture of Boris Johnson and Lord Pumpernickel and King Charles on a big billboard going, oh, yes, I'm very rich and I've got an Aston Martin and a big estate. And look, here's Prince Harry flying over to see, Katy Perry. And here's my new book, Spare. What you do is you get the opposition on there. And instead of like what they've done with Alex Salmond and Ed Miliband, it's a Tory advert, but they put the opposition on there, but make Ed Miliband really small, grow smaller, Ed Miliband, grow tiny, right? And they put it on a billboard. They don't put themselves on there, they put their opposition on there, right? But what the Tories do to get the Labour to either try and vote for them or accept all these gross excess things into their lives, like all these gross foods and all these ridiculous, insane, all the good stuff in life, all the materialistic things, is you get Labour person, a working class person, and you make them bigger. So you get the opposition, your Prince King Charles, or your Boris Johnson, or you're like, Lord Pumpernickel, or, whatever it is, Warburton's gross excess Tories, right? And you get one of your little factory workers, like, they've got Ed Miliband, right, in the pocket of Salmond. But what they do is you pluck someone out like David Beckham, right? Working class lad, from normal people. And then you do what they're doing is like, they're doing like what they do with the Alex Salmond Miliband advert, but instead of shrinking Miliband into the pocket, what they're doing is they're blowing them up. Grow bigger, David, grow bigger. And they're blowing them up, right? And they're throwing all this money at them, giving them all this money, sponsoring them. Oh, like Nike, Dwa, all these, perfumes and adverts and stuff like that. And all these working class people, they're not just, instead of giving everyone in the factory, right? Instead of giving everyone in the factory, like, £1,000 a week, what they're doing is they're plucking Beckham out in football and going, oh, David can have £28,000 a week. Yet, if they split all of the football pro players' wages in the stadium, to all the workers who are watching in the audience, they'd all have a significant pay rise. But what they do is they've got everyone around the stadium who's been working hard at work, grafting away, and they say, oh, it's okay to give it all to these heroes in the middle, and then grow bigger, grow bigger, grow bigger. So what if they can play football? Watch it, enjoy it. He's all right, that lad, I'll buy him a pint. No, what they're doing is they're giving them gross excess, and they're blowing them up bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger into megastars. So then all the working class people then, instead of going, oh, look at Lord Pumpernickel, with all his Aston Martins and his posh fancy stuff. No, what they do is they train them to accept it, like it and want it and even love it. And even it's okay. And then soak it up through, the mobile phone and social media. Not that any of them, many people don't achieve that, but they get them to at least want it or chase after it like a carrot on a stick. That's a problem. And therefore, they're actually using their opposition to promote their own side, to promote their own Tory team by creating those characters, working class heroes, which is an advert for Tory. David Beckham is just like, it's like that Ed Miliband billboard, but instead of shrinking Miliband and putting them in the pocket of salmon, they're blowing, they're getting their opposition and then they're blowing them up to massive proportions, right? So that all their opposition will like it. And it doesn't matter if they actually vote for Conservative or Labour, as long as they're buying that perfume of David Beckham, as long as they're going to the football matches, as long as they are buying all the gadgets and phones that they'd sponsored and stuff like that, right? And turning up for the game show and trying to win the money, because they're saying that it's okay to do that. Instead of saying, look, it's a bit too much, no one needs all that. No one needs all that work. No one needs to make excess produce and all these things, and have ridiculous, insane size Simon Cowell houses with 20 swimming pools and sing in front of Sharon Osbourne. But yet they made, Ozzy Osbourne and, Axl Rose and all these, people who grew up, actually, normal people or hard-working people, and they turn them into, it's all kind of planned and strategized. I know there's always been merchants and things like that, but merchants have always really been, sort of Tories. And with the tools of television and radio, I think it took it to another level. But so, but so a lot of the things that they do to influence the public are they do it indirectly or cleverly to get what they want out of it. Now, the thing with the Tories is a lot of things that they don't want to be, like, oh, I don't want my, or it's not my idea or whatever, they don't want to claim blame for it. There's a lot of things that can, if you knew that they were responsible for it or that they are behind it, it would affect them negatively, And the thing with all this constant polling is that they've got a constant feedback loop now with all these polls, all this ongoing polling, where it's almost like when you're in a music studio and you've got the guy with, the mixing deck and he's like tweaking all the buttons just to get the sound perfect and right. it's just like an ongoing feedback thing where, Boris does something, he acts a certain way, and then, it's affecting the Tory polls, Suddenly, they're looking at this TV screen with all these graphs and charts, and suddenly the Tory party popularity drops because of something Boris does or says, or Suella Braverman or Rishi Sunak. So what that tells you is that anything they do or say can affect their party's popularity. So what they do is, this is why they're not honest, and they don't actually tell you the truth, what they really think and what they're really going to do and what they really are doing. It's all an act, If they're angry or pissed off, they can't appear angry or pissed off. And if they're going to do something that we all don't like, they can't tell us that they're going to do something that we all, don't like. All this surveillance and security and stuff like that. Because it'll affect them. So this is the whole front that you've got, the whole act, the whole lies, like the whole Johnson thing, the whole Tory, the whole lies of politicians, which is not what you want, really, because you want to, in life, you want to know who you're dealing with, and if someone's pissed off, you want to know when they're pissed off, and so forth. You don't want to be dealing with false people. It's much better to have people who are real, genuine people who actually say what they mean and mean what they say and feel how they feel, not like, fakes who are just playing the system. They've got objectives, goals, and things that they really want to do and that they're doing, but they can't tell you that, because then if you find out they're planning on it, then they won't vote for you. So it's a fake. And this is a problem with a lot of it now, and in order, and if they want to do something and people, aren't really keen on it or don't like it, they've got to make you like it. Like with the road safety, the best thing to do if you want to have more and more surveillance and more cameras is have more accidents. In fact, you really, really want to, have like Hillsborough, then people really will be, this is it. You really need to terrorise them and scare them, but you don't want to be responsible, because if you are a big bully going around terrorising people in the corridors, people will complain about you, like Putin, They can't be like Putin, because Putin is the one who's responsible, and he will take the blame, In fact, if you want a war, it's best to, you need a fall guy, basically. These people use fall guys like Putin who can take the blame. They need a blame person or a blame party, which, they can't take the blame, because then they won't get elected. Now, what I don't like about the polls, other than the fact I think they are illegal, is that they're constantly doing this feedback loop, and how will this affect them? And I think now they're just throwing things out, see what they think to this, see what they think to that. So now they know all these different incidents and accidents in the newspapers and how they affect the polls. It's like throwing stones in a pool and the ripples going out, right? But the thing is, the whole point of an election is to find out who likes what party and who wants what party. That's why you have the election. And, these elections were invented, before we had television and radio and so forth. They were invented, even, when people were doing elections in local areas and so forth, just by turning up and saying, everyone raise their hand or whatever, Now, you do that because you don't have TV, you don't have radio, you don't have communications, right? You don't have magazines. So you have to get everyone together and ask them what they think, And the people who are, getting elected, tell them what they're going to do. I'm going to fix the parks, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And then once they've told them, they make a decision, right? Now, the thing is, all this, Time Magazine and God knows what, Rolling Stone and Frick knows, all these polling, who's doing it? And where are they getting the capacity from? Well, we know that the capacity is because we've got YouTube, and on YouTube you can have a poll. And you can get people, you ask people a question and vote. But those questions, if you read the law, like George Galloway's asking questions even, you're not legally allowed to ask those questions outside of a polling period, and only the government or the authority are meant to be asking those questions, it says. Because if anyone's going to ask, people that question, they are polling. It is the, when you're asking them who they like, you're asking them who they like. Now, you can't be asking them that all year, because what you're doing is you're not only affecting voting, it is voting. It is voting. So you might as well not bother having the referendum, because what's the point in having the election or the referendum if you already know? Because if everyone's already told you who they want in government, then you might as well, you've asked them already. You already know. Because you do that election because, to find out who people like. If you already been polling them and you already know. And then the thing is that you're not supposed to know who people like until the outcome. So then you're not changing behaviours. Now, the thing is, because they've already got these polls going and they can see like a graph on a chart, it's like an electric guitar. When you play a note, you can bend the note, like you pluck the note and then you bend it to raise a note up or down, right? And what they're doing now is it's a constant string pluck. And like to get elected, they're doing certain things in order to try and change the outcome of it. If they're not doing too popular too well, they're pulling stunts in order to try and change that bend on the note on the guitar string to get their note higher and back up again, right? But they can only see or hear the note or see the graphic, the graph on the screen because of the polling. But they're not supposed to see what that is until the election, the outcome, because that is what it is. So they've got a result that they're not legally supposed to have, but now they've got it on all the time. You might as well say, right, now that RFK can be president while people like him. And if at any point, rather than being elected for a 4-year term now, you might as well say, while RFK is in the lead, he can be president. And then if he does something that people don't like, anything that he does in government at any time, like Boris Johnson, lying about this or that, or proroguing Parliament illegally, or whatever it is, right? You might as well say that RFK can be in president while he's the most popular in the polls. And then as soon as he does something that people don't like, then they'll replace him and have the other person who's coming in popular. You might as well do that because, it's... Because what they're doing then is they're playing to the audience and they're not, rather than doing what they want, this is the thing. Now, if you're in for a fixed term, now what they're doing is they're leading the public to believe that they're doing a certain thing to get in, right? And then once they're in, they're kind of safe and they can do what they want, right? Because once they're elected, they can get all these things through and do these things, right? Which people might not like or want, which you'd never elect people to do. So what they're doing is they're saying all these things, right, to get the vote. So they're pluck the guitar string and bend the note like fucking Brian May or, Slash or whatever, hitting the note, which gets everyone to vote for them, but then they're doing a lot of things that are, people don't like this Mayor said he can review les and stuff like that. Because they were going to do those things all along, and they never, they're lying. Now, because if they would have told the truth, they wouldn't have got elected. People wouldn't have elected them if they'd have told them the truth in what they're doing. So you know, and they can see that their behaviour and what they're doing is not popular when they've got this constant live feed, which they're not really supposed to have that, because what they're doing is, this is the whole thing that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk won't fit into their brains, all these, the Terminator readout charts and stuff like that. But, you know, humans have got intelligence anyway, you know. All these additional tools are now illegal, a lot of them, compared to the legislation, you know, what the legislation is, or why it's there and what it's meant to be for. What all this polling stuff, actually, it is illegal according to the Act, because you are asking the question and affecting the elector's opinion. And particularly when the purpose of it is so the MPs can, you know, adjust their behaviour. They're not meant to see how popular they are or no, because they're not meant to adjust their behaviour. They're changing their policies and behaviours partially on popularity, rather than just saying, right, we're this party, this is what we stand for, you know. And I think this is kind of what RFK's, you know, a lot of people support him, but he is now starting to change his behaviour on if it's looking like people aren't going to, you know, vote him on this point or that point. This is what Jimmy Dore's saying, you know. He's starting to bend a little bit and change his note if he's starting to think that he's not going to win, rather than saying, right, I'm going to do this, and this is what I stamp for, and, you know, going for that. But, you know, the way that they're doing it, you might as well just have, you know, people like surfers, you know, surfing the popularity wave, you know, rather than having these 4-year terms now. You might as well just have, you know, Biden's, you know, in the president, and then if he does or says something wrong, then he's straight out. And then Trump's in, you know, and then Trump's surfing the wave, you know, for 3 or 4 months until he's out, and then RFK's in, you know. You might as well have that, because that's effectively what they actually are doing. They're saying that, okay, Biden got elected on a Wednesday, but then everyone now regrets it on Friday evening, and they wish that they'd have elected RFK. So what's the point in having a president that you elected on a Saturday, when by Monday they all hate them and they don't want them in there anymore? According to the polls, which basically means that they've just elected someone, and then he gets in, and then he goes and does a lot of stuff, and then they wish they hadn't have elected him. Then you know, what's the point? The technology now is raced ahead so quick that I actually also think that these tech people and all the algorithms and so forth, the MPs are also bending to pressure, because they're getting constant feedback from the people all the time, you know, the boos and so forth. So it's all one big feedback loop that wasn't really there before. And this is the whole thing with MPs. Why do you have MPs who go all the way to London to represent us? Because we're all working all day. We're too busy working. Now, everyone's got technology. You don't need MPs in Parliament, because everyone can, you know, debate their opinions and do it openly through their devices and cast their votes and so forth. And none of the MPs bother even turning up for the debates. The whole point of the MPs was the fact that we didn't have this technology. You know, there's no point in them. There isn't really any point in them anymore. And that's the biggest thing that we need to realise, you know. And this is why they've got, you know, Hillary Clinton now. Oh, no, I'm going to be a professor, Professor Clinton, and I'm going to educate these people on elections and votings and, you know, steer them in the right way, you know, because effectively, you know, there's no point having them, you know. Oh, no, but they'll guide, you know, they'll be our guides. No, we don't need guides. You know, we're supposed to elect you to represent, you know, the people through the surgery, go tell the MP, you know, what their issues are, and then we want to go debate it in Parliament. But now it's all Hillary. No, Hillary Clinton's going to be your mentor. She's going to tell you what you should be voting for. She's going to be telling you what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. Now, just a minute, haven't we elected the MPs to represent us? Now the whole Hillary Clinton, the Clinton model now is, oh, they're going to advise us. They're the advisors. Not, oh no, like we elect them to represent our interests. No, actually, now they've actually admitted, oh no. How it works is we are the advisors. We're telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing. Not, you haven't elected us to represent you. At least RFK is saying that, he's representing the people who elect him, not trying the Hillary Clinton model. No. You haven't elected me to represent you in Parliament. You elected me to tell you all what to do. And, I know best. This is it. So I don't like the whole poll thing because it actually is designed to be able to see a reading on the screen and influence actually the reading. Why would Mark Zuckerberg have a graph and a chart and all these data? Because the data allows them to see how the public are responding and adjust their behaviour and policies. Well, that's actually affecting an election because you're actually affecting the policies of a party, or even, or even when people see how popular someone is, then they might vote for them because they think other people are going to go vote for them. So it's actually affecting their opinion. It's completely and totally illegal. In fact, it's even more illegal than Rees-Mogg. I know it's illegal, and the whole newspapers are in on it. Even RFK kind of supports it. He likes the polls. Unfortunately, on this matter, and this is one matter that I disagree with him on, he should be calling them out and calling the newspapers out. In fact, he does call the newspapers out. He calls out the main stations, he calls out the main newspapers, he calls out the main channels and say, they wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole, they wouldn't have me on. But he's still agreeing with their systems and the procedures of these crooked channels and stations. He's still kind of like, they wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole and they wouldn't have me on. But, I like their polling system, even though it's illegal, it's almost like YouTube's, unlawfully taking people down, but no one's doing anything about it. That's affecting the outcomes. It's affecting the capacity for people to be able to get petition signatures and get people to support campaigns because YouTube are booting us off when it's going to be a protected process, not just entertainment. The thing is that the biggest influence now is the celebrities and all the champions like Beckham who have been plucked out and made into these big people. And I only use him Beckham because he's just like an easy example just to demonstrate the principle behind it. It's nothing to do with him personally. It's just like to outline the framework of it, basically, just because he's a good example of the general framework, So, it's, if you've got a load, in the 1700s, all these, pimpernels and all these, lords and barons, and they've got these, shipping companies and merchants and factories, and they've got all the working class, but they're not popular. How can they win the working class over when they're not paying them any money hardly? They're ripping them off and they treat them like rubbish and they're cheating them in the law. How can they get them to not, completely and totally, how can they even get them to be obedient, Well, they need them to think, to say that it's okay to have, gross excess. And to do that, they need to get some of those Labour people to be like the Tories, but represent their opposition, which is the whole thing with Starmer. The name Starmer, we're going to make you a star. I mean, that is the Beckham model all over. Keir Starmer. He claims he represents the working class party, but he was a lawyer who ripped people off, left, right and centre, the big grand of rolled up wad of money for, he's a human rights lawyer. And his name's Starmer, but he's for Labour, come and be stars, Don't be happy and content in your own little community neighbourhood with your own friends. Be a star, be worshipped and adored. That's what Starmer represents, unfortunately. So that's one thing I don't agree on. I'm not the, there's nothing wrong with joining in and engaging with things, but what they did to the musicians and what they did, the invention of the TV, I don't think there's anything wrong with having, but the thing is, like, look at the circus though, you got the circus performers, they've got musicians. There's nothing wrong with, the bards and being good at something in music and so forth, or even travelling around. But, I mean, they've still got circuses now, but the circus is entertaining people, but it's never pushed it, this hyper polarization. I think that guy, who's doing all the food at the moment, he calls it ultra processed food. It's all right to have food, but this is ultra processed food, and it's meant to, really, really turn it into turbo overdrive. I think that's ultra processed celebrities, really. I think what they've actually done with the ultra processed food is what they've done with the celebrities and like, Radio 2 presenters, Jeremy Vine, all this Strictly Come Dancing stuff. It's ultra processed celebrityism just for the sake of milking it, and it really disrupts and upsets the whole social balance, because you get a lot of people then who end up, sad. They don't have relationships, or people in the area are distracted by their machines, devices. They're even wanting to try and get people to have Android phones now. I don't think that they want humans to form independent groups and political parties or anything. They want everyone, I don't know why, but they just want everyone to just be giving the salute at the same time. And it's because they want everyone to, they've got their own plans, like Tony Blair says, this globalist plan for everything that they want everyone to do, I don't like it,